Let's get it started with some breaking news in Philadelphia, where the Eagles are hiring Nick Sirianni as their next head coach, according to multiple reports. Sirianni spent the last 3 seasons as the Colts offensive coordinator. He's replacing Doug Peterson, who was fired earlier this month after finishing last in the NFC East with a 4-11-1 record. So, Acho, what's your reaction to the Eagles hiring Sirianni as the head coach?
I got a lot to get off my chest. Let me preface with this, big bro.
We're going here.
You can be unqualified and still succeed. The two are not mutually exclusive. You can be unqualified
I heard it.
and still succeed.
And now I feel it.
Let's go ahead and get that out the way.
Okay.
Just because someone succeeds does not mean they were qualified to be hired. Nick Sirianni wasn't qualified to get this gig.
Ooh.
He wasn't. Let me make this clear for all of y'all. The Eagles fired Doug Peterson to hire his understudy's understudy.
All right.
The Eagles hired Doug Peterson to hire his OC's offensive coordinator. Somebody got to make that make sense for me, Marcellus.
I'm here.
I don't get this hire. Actually, I do get it. I didn't want to be honest with y'all because in playing for the Eagles, I'm not allowed to tell y'all 100% of the truth.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying? When you're in the locker room, you can't say everything, but it's about time to say some things. What we know about Eagles management is this. They want to be able to control the situation. Doug Peterson is no longer the Eagles head coach, not because they struggled this year, contrary to what y'all read. He's no longer the Eagles head coach because management wanted to tell Doug Peterson who to hire and who to fire. And Doug Peterson looking at himself saying, look, I've won Super Bowls. Y'all not going to tell me what to do. But you know who Eagles management can control? They can control a coach with no head coaching experience. They can control a coach with a limited resume. They can control a coach with a minimal name. So it's not like he's coming in to call a whole bunch of shots. So when I look at it, I say this. I believe the Eagles just hired a puppet that management can control. Now, I'm not going to say a puppet can't succeed. I'm not going to say Nick Sirianni can't have success. I'm not going to say he won't have success. But just because you have success does not mean you were necessarily qualified for the job at the moment in which you were hired.
You got there. You went exactly where my notes were taking me as well. My reaction to this was somewhere between surprised and shocked. I was surprised because I looked at the qualifications and I said, that's an interesting hire when we didn't hear about him being in the front of the line for other opportunities. But it stopped short of shock because once I see offensive coordinator on your resume, you are deemed qualified because the only next step is a head coaching opportunity. Now, shame on the media, shame on us for not pumping him up based on the accolade.
What accolades?
Having an offense that was 30th ranked before you got there, and then your 3 years, they're 8th ranked. That's pretty good, especially when you had a carousel of quarterbacks. We could go all the way Andrew Luck, we could go to Jacoby Brissett, then Phillip Rivers, who was broken down to the point where he was available to be there.
8th ranked based on what metrics, sir? Points?
Scoring, yeah.
I'm like,
Okay.
I don't see. Go ahead.
Hey, man, I know
ahead.
this just hit right now, and prep is different for both of us, but I'm just letting you know what the numbers say right here. All I'm saying is that's a pretty big leap. So I wasn't shocked. Second thing is, Acho, be real.
Talk to me.
Once Doug Peterson was fired, and you went to the place why he was fired,
yes, sir.
But you didn't say it with your chest because you said, I'm with the Eagles and I can't say it 100%.
Can't say everything.
I wasn't with the Eagles. I can. I don't serve two gods. I work for Fox, and guess what? I'm about to talk this talk. And
Talk
speak,
that talk,
speak
big bro.
for yourself. I knew that they were going to hire a coach that they wanted in part to have less power and a shorter leash. Why? Because they punked Doug Peterson. They were basically telling Doug Peterson who to hire and, more importantly, who to play. That whole carousel between Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz and how that whole season played out, that wasn't all Doug Peterson's doing.
Of course not.
So when you want to call Nick a puppet, you just replaced a puppet in some respects. Hey, I know you got a Super Bowl on your resume, but still, it's how you went out. And you went out not on your own sword. So I look at this situation in short and say this. If they did that to Doug Peterson, the next best thing in terms of who's going to replace him is going to be someone with less power, shorter leash, and who was the best for Carson Wentz before? Because you got to make your money work. You got to get a return on investment.
I understand what you're saying.
Come on. I'm not saying he's better than Jalen Hurts because I think Jalen Hurts is better. But the point is there's still too much money invested in Carson Wentz. We need to fix Carson Wentz. So the organization says let's minimize the head coach in terms of him being involved in office politics, bringing himself upstairs all the time, trying to work with our dealings. 2, who's the best to fix Carson Wentz? Frank Reich. Damn it, we can't get Frank Reich. Who can we get? The same guy who Frank Reich has been on record saying, I think he's a brilliant offensive mind. The first thing I said to General Manager Chris Ballard was, that's the guy I need in Nick Sirianni on my staff. Same guy who's went from 30th to 8th. He's a tireless worker. He pays attention to details, dynamic coaching personality. The first hire that Frank Reich wanted was Nick. So if you look at this in totality, brother, I'm not shocked. And I'm a little surprised just because I didn't hear enough of his name, but shame on me more so than shame on Nick Sirianni.
I don't know shame on you, big dog. Well, first let me push back on a couple things. Let me push back on a couple things.
Okay, let's go.
The first is they had the 30th ranked offense because Andrew Luck didn't play that season. We all know that.
Hey, man.
Right? Now, the next year, as I see it, they got the 10th ranked offense, followed by the 18th ranked offense, followed by this year, the 10th ranked offense. Now, again, I trust you. I trust your preparation, but the numbers I see are a little bit different, so I just got to push back on what I see. But let's get, Marcellus, to the detail that don't nobody want to talk about, and I'm going to say it. I hate in sports where we just take lazy narratives, and I'm guilty of it. Nick Saban failed in the NFL. Until I did my own research, and I was like, wait a second. Nick Saban's first year with the Dolphins, he won 9 games. The Dolphins have only seen head coaches win 9 games 4 times in their last 17 years. The next year when Saban struggled, his starting quarterback got hurt. So did he really fail? Or did I just listen to what everybody else said? Okay, why am I bringing that up? Because Frank Reich, we all say that Carson Wentz succeeded because of Frank Reich. And yes, that played a factor, but all the dudes I talked to who were on that Super Bowl roster told me Frank Reich didn't call the plays. Frank Reich would get on the headset. He would tell Doug Peterson about 3 or so plays to call in 3rd and short or on the goal line, and Doug Peterson would call the plays.
Okay.
So was it that Frank Reich is the biggest reason for Carson Wentz's success, or was it a 27-year-old Zach Ertz, a 27-year-old Alshon Jeffrey, a 28-year-old Torrey Smith, a 24-year-old Nelson Aguilar, first-round pick who was in his best season, although he caught a lot of slack while in Philly? Was it Frank Reich? Or was it a combination of a bunch of other players in the prime of their career? Because what's frustrating me now, Marcellus, is like, wait a second, I have Frank Reich's number, so put me in the head coaching conversation. Like, just because you were associated, to a man who was associated with Carson Wentz's prime, doesn't mean that you should all of a sudden be a first candidate for a job, Sal. That's where I get lost. Like, Nick Sirianni, the only reason that we're kind of tolerating this head coaching hire is because he's associated with the man who was associated with Carson Wentz's success.
That's not it.
That's it. Then what is it?
I could break it down. First of all, let me push back on your pushback because when you push on me and I weigh more than you, I'm going to push back and it's going to hurt you. Now, points per game, year before Sirianni, 30th. Under Sirianni,
Got you.
8th.
You're going off points. Okay.
Yards per game, let's keep going. 31st to 14th, huge drop. Rushing yards per game, 22nd to 10th. These are all drastic improvements. Passing yards per game, 30th to 13th.
Brissett to Luck, though. That has to matter. That has to matter to you.
It will. Okay, so I could drop you a couple notches. But it doesn't matter. That's still a huge drop. And let's look at turnover. You're teaching a new quarterback every year the same system, but it's a different quarterback, and you're still drastically improving. Well, however you want to slice it, big dog, he had impact. Let's talk about third down percentage. Money down, 18th to 6th. 3 different quarterbacks. Let's talk about sacks. You were the worst team in terms of allowing sacks. When you left, now you're left, second fewest. Here's the thing. Let's talk about who he is, because I'm going to go to the guy who I think is going to be a Hall of Famer, in Phillip Rivers.
Okay.
Phillip Rivers was considered broken by many people his last year with the L.A. Chargers, correct?
Okay. Yes, sir.
23 touchdowns, 20 interceptions.
Yes, sir.
Phillip Rivers threw 20 interceptions. Yes, he did. But when you look at that, you're like, where's Phillip Rivers going to go? He lands at Indy. He lands where Nick Sirianni is. He lands where Frank Reich is. All of a sudden, Phillip Rivers goes to 24-11. A lot of people say a tremendous season by Phillip Rivers, tremendous season by the Indianapolis Colts based on all expectations. You can't just keep giving credit to individuals and not give it to the total. Or to the person who is in charge of the offense. And that's why I'm not shocked by Nick Sirianni's
We got to park
move.
somewhere. We got to park somewhere because I'm
Well, let's
confused.
ride first. Let's go somewhere
I'm
first.
confused, and I'm sure y'all at home are confused too, because how do we dictate when we give the offensive coordinator credit if he's not calling plays, and when we give the head coach credit if he is calling plays? Because we look at Doug Peterson and Frank Reich.
I know how.
And some people have said, well, you know what? Let's give Frank Reich credit, even though Frank Reich wasn't calling the plays for that Eagles Super Bowl team. Doug Peterson was. Well, then we look at the Chiefs, and we don't give Eric Bieniemy any credit. We give Andy Reid all the credit because Andy Reid is the play caller, not Eric Bieniemy.
But then we go. How long it take you to get to where you
No,
really
I'm not
want
even
to
going.
go?
That's not where I want to go.
Okay.
But then we go to the Colts.
Let's go.
And now we're going to give Nick Sirianni credit, even though Nick Sirianni's not calling the plays, but Frank Reich is. I just don't know how we're allowed to pick and choose when we want to give non-play callers credit.
Well, one, if you own a team, if you own anything in this world, as you own some things, I know your properties, your IP is out there, you can do what the hell you want to do. So let's not go into somebody else's lane and tell them what they can't do.
Talking about management. Talking about Eagles management.
I'm talking about who hired Nick Sirianni. Okay? So let's not go that far. Acho, I love you to death. You come over my house trying to tell me how I'm going to run my house, you're going to be gone. It's just going to be that simple. And I'll call you later and talk about it. It's that simple. But here, schematics is different than play calling. Let's just be real about that. We've been in the locker room before. We've been on the sidelines before. I was on the sidelines with a head coach that was a winning head coach, didn't even wear a headset. His name is Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips has a tremendous win percentage in this league. People try to slight him and say he's only a defensive coordinator. Look up the numbers. He has a winning percentage that show everywhere he went as a head coach, he did a little something. Point being, during the game, Wade Phillips sitting there looking at us like, y'all prepared. The game is played Monday through Saturday to Wade Phillips, and on Sunday, I let my coordinators coordinate. That was his style. I've also played with coaches like Bill Parcells and everybody else. You better run it through me. Marty Schottenheimer, run it through me in that respect. So they're all different, one. Two, this situation, man, if you look at what his resume says, it says enough to get him the opportunity. It gets him enough. I really don't you know what? Explain your frustration.
Let me explain my frustration.
Because frustration means you want something else.
Yes. Let me explain.
Anger means you want something else. You don't want Nick Sirianni. What did you want?
Let me explain my frustration.
Because I'm not frustrated.
When I look at a hire like Robert Saleh had a top 6 defense the last 2 years, and this past year, he had none of his dogs, and he called his own plays. When I look at a hire like the coordinator Staley from the Rams, the #1 defense this year in points and yards, and he was the coordinator who called his own plays. Now I look at Nick Sirianni. This year, number 8 in yards, number 10 in points. So however you want to decide how you rank your offense, he's number 8 in yards, he's number 10 in points. He didn't call his own plays. Last year, number 25th best offense in yards, 18th best offense in points. He didn't call his plays. The year before, 7th in yards, 10th in points. He didn't call his plays. So,
I'm trusting you that he didn't call his plays.
That's based on all the reports. That's based on all the reports.
I'm just trusting you.
Correct. And I'm trusting the reporters.
And we're trusting the reports.
We all trust somebody.
I'm just trusting it.
So when you say, what's my frustration?
Yeah, what's your frustration?
If Nick Sirianni is qualified, then there were people way more qualified than him.
And numbers.
I don't even have to. As soon as you say Eric Bieniemy, it becomes racial. So I don't even want to talk about Eric Bieniemy. If you want to talk about qualifications, you got coordinators that are still in these playoffs right now. But what's the issue? The issue is Eagles management needs a puppet. Bro, let's go relationships, big dog. What I've learned is this, and you know this, you married, I'm single, I'm the single one out here in these streets. What I've learned, what I've learned, Sel, is this. The older an individual is that you go on a date with, they already set in their ways. They've lived a lot.
You dating them old ladies? Don't be laughing. Oh,
we're talking sports.
You brought up relationships. You out there in them streets, Metamucilin. You better get your game right. All right,
look, big dog, the older it is somebody you talk to, they set in their ways. They stuck. But the younger you go, they're a little more pliable, like they're a little more open. They're a little more, okay, I can go this way, I can go that way. It's the same thing with head coaches. The older the head coach, the more seasoned resume of a head coach, you're not going to tell me who to hire. You're not going to tell me who to
That's
fire.
why Doug is gone.
Exactly.
So what does that have to do with Nick?
That has to do with Nick because Nick is just going to be a puppet.
Because Nick Doug was a puppet.
Doug was not a puppet.
Hold on. Did Doug get his way?
He got fired.
Did he get his way?
No, because he got fired.
You know why he didn't get his way?
Because
he played both sides. He played both sides. You know he played both sides. So first of all, Doug Peterson out there with Carson Wentz, they had a fractured relationship. But they tried to mend it, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so already we got an issue there. Then Jalen Hurts, they draft him, and were you with Jalen Hurts or against Jalen Hurts? Depends on the day, depends on the wind. Then all of a sudden that insertion of Jalen Hurts into the starting lineup, and then after that, you're like, are you with Jalen Hurts or are you with Carson Wentz? He's saying what the political speak was. He was talking for the organization. Meanwhile, beefing with the same organization he was trying to make smooth with. Finally, he just got to a point where it's like, y'all can't tell me who to fire and who to hire. And then he left. He went out finally saying what he felt, but his entire tenure after the Super Bowl with the losing record was him trying to make it happy over here. My grandma used to say this. You got two hands. One of them is rubbing and one of them is petting. He was trying to rub the situation on the field with the players, and then he was trying to pet the situation upstairs. You got to pick a side, big dog, and he picked a side. That's why he's out. Opportunity for Nick Sirianni. Let me give you this, Acho, because I love to personalize it. Because we go example, relationship. I don't know these old women you date, but I do know, Acho, be real, Acho.
Yes, sir.
Were you the most qualified person for this job? Damn no. I know you. No.
Was I the most skilled?
No. Whatever you want. I'm gonna say it again. Were you the most qualified? Under that is skill, talent, attributes, and all that.
If qualifications is talent, I would say yes. If qualification is NFL resume, I would say no.
I just want you to understand. Look, when I retired, and I wasn't the best DN ever. I probably wasn't the most qualified. But you add all the things up. You add up relationships. You add up associations. You add up what you had in terms of impact on resume. Acho, all of a sudden you add up Acho, he's here. But if you just look at it like, man, what did he do? He played in the league 4 years. Then you look at me. Marcellus, what did he do? He played in the league 10 years, and he had no sacks a few years. Like, you can beat up every resume. Do you hire number one all the time? No, you don't.
No.
So why are you so frustrated at this one?
I'm frustrated because it depends on what you deem is a proper qualification when making a hire. So if you want to talk personally.
Offensive coordinator.
Yes. Well, if you want, let's start here. Let's go here, and then let's get back to sports.
Let's go.
If you want to base a qualification for a TV host based on the name brand, based on how he played on the field, absolutely not. I am the least qualified. But if you want to base a qualification for a TV host based on their TV resume, based on what they've accomplished through TV ranks, then I would say I'm the most qualified.
They won?
For this job. But let's get back to football.
Come on, man. Those guys have been in this game stuck, as you said, at the coordinator position on television, car washing all day, and they've been in the game way longer than you. Be real. You fast people. Acho, I know these people. They mad at you here. They always text me, when you gonna get your boy off? I'm like, dog, I ain't. He passed you.
Let's get back to football.
Good.
Let's get back to football.
Okay.
If you want to base your qualifications on offensive resumes, I still don't think Sirianni is. Because I would talk about Brian Daboll and what he did for the Chiefs.
Nice.
I would talk about Bieniemy, what he's done for Brian Daboll, what he did for the Bills. Yeah. Bieniemy, what he did for the Chiefs. I would talk about even more prolific offenses.
Agreed.
But if you want to base qualifications upon who you can manipulate the most, then yes, Nick Sirianni is the most qualified. Well, I'm just judging your qualification being who you can manipulate, like I judge TV shows who only hire based on gold jackets, but they can't do a job.
Now we're in the same place.
Let's get there.
Everybody is looking at it differently. We all are choosing our door to go to the same place. But the door that they chose, you can't be mad at because they advertised the door that they were going to choose. Next coach ain't going to be Doug Peterson. Next coach ain't going to be coming up here upstairs talking about what he going to do and what he's not going to do. Next coach is going to be able to relate to our franchise quarterback if he's still that guy because of the investment we have in him. Next coach is going to know this building but not think he controls and owns what's in this building. All of that said, man, a lot of arrows start to point. And then if you look at the resume, calling plays or not, you're the offensive coordinator, 30th to 8th, 31st to 14th, last to 2nd. Starting to sound pretty good.
Let's get to the why. Because if you want to talk about frustration, let's get to the why I am frustrated.
Yes.
The why I am frustrated is because of this. I don't think organizations succeed when a coach and management are not on the same page.
Okay.
I just don't think they succeed. I was in Philadelphia with Chip Kelly, and based on what I was told by coaches on that staff at the time, Chip had to hire certain coaches at certain positions, and then he could hire whoever else he wanted. But he had to hire certain coaches at certain positions. Now, Chip and management didn't really get along. which is why the general manager at the time, Howie Roseman, was thrown to the other side of the building when Chip was calling the shots. Then as soon as Chip got fired, Howie was thrown back to the football ops side of the building. I don't think that the Eagles can succeed if you have a general manager who wants to call it one way and a head coach who's trying to coach it the other way. Yeah, early on it'll sound nice, it'll be great. But Nick Sirianni probably running to take that job because just 3 years ago, you were a receivers coach and now you a head coach.
Yeah.
But just because you're running at an opportunity doesn't mean it'll be great for you when you get
Acho, I love you, big dog, but I was here in L.A. doing a TV show and local L.A. radio. So
sir.
Lakers, Dodgers, Chargers, Rams. I remember day one of Sean McVay. Now, I remember people like, he's offensive coordinator in Washington, but. And then you're like, oh, listen to this guy. Oh, let's watch. Oh, look at the impact. Look at Jared Goff. All that. And if you look at Sean McVay's resume as an offensive coordinator, not certain if he was calling plays or not, but knowing Sean McVay probably was, he didn't even have the same amount of impact in Washington as Nick Sirianni did in Indianapolis with the Colts. All that said, big dog, man, we both have benefited from a little tailwind behind us that maybe we didn't fully qualify for, but now we living it up and owning it.